notifications everywhere. Do you want to introduce us, Daniel? Let's
Sure.
start streaming. And look, do I give you that nod again, or do I just look at you and go, mm-hmm?
Just look at me.
Okay, I'm looking at you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Message Center Show. We are on episode, I think, 85, and we are going to talk about a lot of stuff, SharePoint and Yammer and Teams. So roll the credits. Roll it up.
Doing it. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good now. What a wonderful welcome there, Daniel. It's true. There is always a lot of stuff. Not true,
A
actually.
lot. Well, a
Well,
lot recently. I mean, the past few weeks, several
yeah.
weeks, have been a great deal number of messages, and here we are again with the same thing.
Yep, yeah. Look, we do prepare most of the time. We do read through these messages, and in even some cases, we actually take our own advice and check the message center throughout the week. Look, you can't help it when some of these things are appearing in your email and on apps and various things.
Right?
Let's just flick over to the live chat, which I managed to remember to throw together.
Yay!
Yeah, I know. We have Sandy, we have Dean Gross, and there's this other guy called Daniel.
Hello, Dean. Oh.
Um, the daylight savings switched over in the
Mm,
States, didn't it? So
it did. Oh,
it's
there's Phil.
now, what, 2 p.m.
It
in
is
Central?
1 p.m. my
1 p.m.
time. Yep.
Right, right. Okay, so Dan and I are trying to find middle ground here, and because the rest of the world or different parts of the world flick over to daylight saving, we're going to try and align it with 1 p.m. Central, 12 p.m.
Hmm.
Pacific, right? And eventually that'll be New Zealand. No, am I 2 hours out? 11 a.m. Oh,
Pacific. Yes.
yeah, my geography is awesome. Um, anyway, that's why I have
Yes.
an app because there's Google Maps
Right.
and there's oh yeah, did you see my AR experiments this week?
Yes.
Yeah, I got
It's
invited to some sneaky little preview which said this is confidential. Like what? What did I didn't remember any ND. What do you?
confidential.
Yeah.
And then you
Anyway,
shared it with the world.
no, just a little bit, just a little bit. Anyway, moving on to the message center. Oh look, I looked
Yes,
for
sir.
existing videos. There were plenty out there from reporters and from others
Mm.
that have been invited early. So testing the waters. Right.
You're not
I,
in
I got
trouble,
to.
Daryl. Let's
I
go.
am so in trouble, and who better to find me out than Google because I know everything about me anyway. Uh, um, starting at the bottom of the list as we do,
Uh-huh.
we have a few. Well, we have a few updated features. You saw there was a few general or major announcements, and good
Hmm.
to see that they actually feel like major announcements.
Hmm.
But getting on with this one, this is a major announcement, updating the terminology in Microsoft Teams to do with channels and channel
Hmm.
actions.
Yep.
Um,
I
Go ahead. I know it. As I was writing the notes for this, I was like, inconsistency. Am I right?
yes, and it's they're doing it to try to be uh, just taking on face value of what they're saying. They're trying to do it so that to avoid confusion, but I'm just even more confused.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, maybe that's just me, but the terminology they're using to renaming it, I don't understand it. I don't know why
What's
they chose that. Because you're going from follow and unfollow to notifications.
mm,
Okay, I can kind of see it's a follow is an action, like I'm following you, and the
yeah,
notification is actually the reaction. So
yeah.
you're going to click something that's the reaction that you want instead of the act anyway. And then the that one is bad enough, but the whole favorite thing and the renaming of that, I don't understand how show where show I don't know.
Well, that
Um,
that I think was one of the initial prompts to change because
hmm
when
I
you
get it.
are favoriting something, in Teams terms, all it's doing is you might have 50 channels in a team,
Hmm.
and when you favorite it, you're making it appear, and the rest of the things that you haven't favorited are below, saying there are 49 more channels for you to watch or
Yeah.
to like or whatever.
Right.
Um, so it is just an action that they've renamed as show and hide. But what I don't like is the expression of the shown channels. It feels like
Yeah.
kind of a weird grammatical error, even though it may not be. But
Yeah. And
follow and unfollow.
I agree. I think it's going to be interesting. We might be having some sort of conversation about this next week.
Yeah, maybe.
The maybe, and maybe we can express that, but it's kind of too late now. Although I think some have expressed it, but that's kind of the way it is. I don't know. Well, it's a new normal, I guess. We'll get used to it, but I
Mm.
just don't understand the terminology.
Well, no. Look, one of the points that I wanted to make was that there is some inconsistencies now. We have in SharePoint that we follow, or rather, we favorite a site. Yes,
Hmm.
still exists. In Office,
Yeah.
we pin a document or a folder. In
Hmm.
Yammer, we join a group because
Hmm.
there are no pinned, favorite, and joined groups. But in Teams now, we show and unshow, or show and hide, and something is shown or hidden.
Yeah. It'd be great if these teams actually worked for the same company and they could actually talk. That's a simplified, comment,
It
that
is.
has
It
been
is.
made. But still, I mean, many of these teams actually report up to the same person. So it'd be great if they did, have some collaboration. Hey, they're collaboration tools. Anyway, um, to just to be consistent. When I
Yeah.
follow something, I want to follow it everywhere, and I want it to be called follow. I don't want it to be a different color or a different logo. I don't want it to be a different word. Just make it the same. And all those examples you just gave, it's like they're different companies, and they're not, paying attention to what the other's doing.
I'm interested in. They are adding some additional notification preferences for channels.
Mm.
That when you, or rather, shown channels, when you show a channel, that means that you're interested in it, and you
Hmm.
can set notifications, which used to be called follow.
Right.
So what else can you do? I mean, if you're turning on notifications for a shown channel, that means I want to know about them. Tell me about activity that's happening within the channel. Up until now, we've had you get everything. So if this is a really busy channel and you're following it, beep 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 beep, every message, every document, every what? Well, no, not every document, every post in the conversations area. And when
Yeah.
I don't mean beep as in like expletives. I saw that. But when you've got other options coming, what does that mean? Does that mean that we can say I want to hear these sorts of notifications in this shown channel? It's still already a mouthful. What
It
would you
is,
like to
and
see?
well, I struggle right now with the channels you don't see. How do you
Mm.
keep up with those conversations? And I don't want to see them, so that therefore they're not being seen, but I want to keep up with them, so I have to actively go and look. So maybe I need to turn on notifications for them because as you know, everyone who watches the show, I'm a firm believer. Email is still the one thing that keeps all of this, that binds us to all together, because every service relies on it. And so, do I want to, subscribe to those channels I'm not showing so that I get it in my inbox so I can actually actively, I don't know. Um, I'm I hate to say this, especially before I go spend a week with Microsoft, but the the whole Teams experience is getting a little bit too much for me. And we're going to talk about something else here, an announcement about adding functionality to Teams, and it brings up yet another point of I'm just not. It's become a clutter. It's cluttered my life instead of what it's supposed to do, which is simplify my life and bring
Yeah.
everything in one spot and be clean and be elegant and more. Actually, what's is happening for me in Teams is I'm having to babysit it more. I'm having to check here, check here, check here, do this, click here, open this tab. and it's just I'm working on Teams, not in Teams.
Mm, mm.
It's
Yeah,
kind of my, I don't know.
yeah. I think one phrase I'd pick up on there is that maybe it isn't the right thing for it to place for everything.
Right.
As in everything. Yeah, we'll see, we'll see. Um, moving on up, yeah, life cycle dashboards are now available. Look, I read this message and began excitedly thinking, "Oh, this is good." It's about trying to help organizations plan for the required upgrade to Office 2019 or Office 365 Pro Plus. That they'll be able to take or connect to Office 365 after this deadline of the 13th of April, because 2016 won't be supported. The dashboard supposedly gives you some visibility, but where is that dashboard, Daniel?
Well, it's on-prem.
Yeah?
Um, it's in System Center, which I think, I love the idea. The idea is I have all of these devices, and you get departments who go out and buy Office, or they go out and they do this, and then you buy Office licenses for certain people. So you got a mix of all of 365 licenses and the product license, and how do we roll out making sure that everyone still has access to their documents, right? And that are stored in SharePoint and Teams and such. So I think this is great for me. It's a great thing, but it definitely is focused on the on-prem to understand how people are connecting, out, rather than from the Office 365 point of view of how people are connecting in, if that makes sense.
Yeah, exactly that. We think about how we've got quite a good visibility of what is connecting to Exchange Online. We can tell the type of client, the age, etc. So we kind of look already in outward from the inside view. And when I began to read this, I thought, great, they're going to be adding maybe a couple of complementary dashboards in here to give us some visibility from Microsoft 365 back out to see who's using these older versions of Office that will be eventually at risk. But it's an on-prem thing. So I mean, it's related to the service Office 365, Microsoft 365, but you do need to have these additional tools to make it work.
Well, and it makes sense from an IT, someone who manages the on-prem, because you're managing the Windows, you're managing those systems because they're on your network. So I get that. So you're able to scan all of those. One thing that it does give you an insights into what is connecting into rather than what's connecting outward, like we just talked about, is there are some Office clients that may never connect to Office 365, right? Yeah. So maybe they're not connecting at all. And so if you were looking from Office 365 into, okay, what's connecting to me, then you wouldn't be able to know that Office 2013 or 2016 is on that client. However, I think there's value in both. So especially for organizations that, maybe their people don't connect to the network that often. And so how are you supposed to scan? And I don't know. There's a lot of technical details in there, but I think that may be one reason why it's good to have on-prem, but I would like to see both. I would like to see, compare those two. I do a scan and I simplify it. I have 100 copies of Office, different flavors of versions and such, but only 60 are connecting to Office 365 at any point. What's going on? Where are those other 40? How are they getting their email?
Statistic, wouldn't it?
It would. Are they getting their email just on mobile? Or are they using OA, Outlook for the web? Or how's this even working? So I'd like to see that statistic, but.
Actually, that's a good point. If your organization has chosen to move to Exchange Online and a third, or let's say a quarter of the organization don't show that their copy of Office is actually accessing their mailbox.
Right.
They could be all salespeople and they just work completely from their mobiles.
I read my email and work from my email on my mobile a lot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get it. I just don't like to type out long emails.
Oh, no.
But we've talked about this before. I like Outlook for the web.
Yeah.
So, it has some functionality that Outlook client does not, that I
Mm.
actually use in my day-to-day work. So I could see that. I really could see that people
Yeah.
just don't use Outlook to connect to Outlook to
Yeah.
Office 365. So,
Um, we've got a couple of messages like this week, which felt like we had already talked about them, and this one where we're talking again about a license name change for My Analytics. It's now been
but
called.
now we have the name, right?
No, we had the name beforehand. As I read this, we think
Okay.
about okay, there's a license that's been changed, but what's different here? And I noted this was last time it was all about E5, E5, E5. And I thought
Mm,
to myself, well, okay, great, you're changing the name, and this affects E5. But what about?
mm,
I mean, there's nothing different there. It's a service, and it's been split apart. Now they've been quite clear that it's going to be made available for customers with pretty much the full span of the
yeah.
business and enterprise
E1s and
E3s and
E3s.
E1s.
Well,
Yeah.
this we talked about. They're separating it out, right? So
Hmm.
what is my analytics? We've known this, that it's going to be part of those Office 365 subscriptions that most people have, the E3s and such, and they're going to have additional functionality that's only going to be for E5s,
Mm.
really, or add-ons.
Yep.
So they're just renaming this so that we understand this is what's part of those Office 365 E3s and E1s and enterprise, small business, all
Yep.
of those.
Yep.
And then whatever they call the next one will be the add-on. So
Yeah, yeah. I mean, definitely you're be paying for your organizational level analytics and getting the
mhm.
aggregation of it. But I think it's great that they are making the at least the personal analytics available, so that as this arrives, people can start to get a better view of their own productivity.
But it
Um,
doesn't start until the user turns that on, that add-in for Outlook, right?
yeah,
And
yeah, that's
so
right. And then that
it's
might
not
take a little while to pull those results across.
right. So don't think when you roll this out that it's okay. I pushed the button, so everybody has it. So now tomorrow I'm going to come in and see what everybody did yesterday.
Mm, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
first of all, that's not how all that works. It's my analytics, not your analytics. Um, and
Really?
second of all, yeah, it does take time to gather all that
That's an
information,
interesting
and the
insight
user
there,
has to
Daniel.
enable. That's
Yeah.
right. I might get up on a mic next week and say, you know what, this is my analytics, not your analytics.
Oh, very good.
Yeah, yeah.
When the license is enabled, though, and I know here's a lazily commented, what do you need to do when you change? What do you need to prepare for change?
Hmm.
Uh, you do need to prepare for change by telling people that if you plan to roll this out and make it available to your end users, that it's there. And look, take the opportunity to maybe make this as a product launch campaign. That roll this into a initiative to help people to work more effectively. Tell them what My Analytics is and that what you see, and help them interpret the data that they're going to get back each week or
Hmm.
within the
Yep.
panel. Because then they'll get use out of it rather than just turning it on and just leaving it there and not explaining it.
I agree. And this is one of those times where education is, I think, important for your users. Help them. Help them understand how they're working, and maybe get insights into how they could be more efficient and such. So I think this is another opportunity, and we talk about that a lot. Just educate your users, and not just a bullet point of, my analytics is going to be called Insight. Just, a little information about how they can use it.
Yeah,
Send them the video on how to turn it on, and just, at least a little bit, so that they can get some value out of it.
and that's why I would wrap it up and use it as a opportunity, as a campaign for the business need that's behind this.
Hmm.
If you're
Hmm.
an
Hmm.
organization that has too many meetings, then use it as a way of saying, look, we're going to start looking closer at our meetings. And what we want you to do is take a look at what your My Analytics is suggesting to you around how you're in meetings and whether you're multitasking, whether you actually played an active role, and come back and say, well, look, maybe I didn't need to be part of that meeting. I've got the data to show that.
Right. Exactly. I just survived another meeting that should have been a Teams conversation. Speaking of Teams.
Yes. Action. Oh, hang on. Have you got this one?
Yes.
Yammer ID. So speaking of Teams, we'll put you on pause. What did you have next? Did you have a Teams announcement? A Teams message?
I did.
Whew. Well, I know we compared notes this morning around Yammer IDs.
It's all good. Yep,
the Teams one, I think, will be one click away.
Yep, sorry.
This one is a bit perplexing too.
Yes.
If you're using apps within your Yammer environment, third-party apps, you might find that some may break because they are using a Yammer ID which is longer than a 32-bit integer. Now, this is going to mean something to IT pros, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yeah, but this message gives the appearance that it's looked into your environment and said, you're possibly at risk, so I think you should take a close look. But as you read down, it actually says, we're not sure you have, but just check anyway. Make that change before the 3rd of April, which is really just a couple of weeks away. So if you depend on these apps, you might not be using them if your third-party provider has not made allowances for this change.
Yeah, and I sent it to you saying, hey, do you have this? Because this seems targeted. I wanted to make sure you saw it. But then I think you're right. It is kind of a faux targeted because I don't have any Yammer apps. So I don't know why.
Did we just achieve what Lorian and Alistair have not been able to do yet? We said something at the same time, and they can't even do paper, scissors, rock. I just thought I'd put it out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice. I'm sure they will appreciate that.
Yeah.
Make sure you send them a copy of this video right at
the timestamp right there, just to lay it out there as a challenge.
Can we talk about Yammer and Teams now?
Yeah, let's do that.
This is exactly what.
This
is exactly what I was talking about before.
Yes.
Where Teams is busy, and it is getting more work. Microsoft has been saying it for a while though. Hey, we want Teams to be your central place of where you go to work, right? And now bringing a social network tab into your social network.
Well, you call Teams a social network?
Yes, I call it. I mean, you can instant message with people. You can chat where everybody can hear you. You can send everyone in your organization. You can have most certainly do that. And you can send the GIFs. So yes, it is a social network.
Okay.
That's my definition. Hey, it doesn't have to be your definition. As long as you don't judge, we're good.
Yeah, no, we're good. Yeah. Here it is. And you're right. Okay, this does make things busier. I did see, all sorts of comments out in social saying, is this like the last dying gasp of Yammer trying to survive, by attaching themselves to Teams? No, they definitely have other things on the go, and there is a plan, and it's really focused around org-wide conversation. But going back to your point, does this make a team too busy? And I think it raises something else, which is bigger than the Yammer conversation, is if Teams is the hub for teamwork, should we be trying to add everything into our team, or do we need to be choosy to what we connect to this hub?
Yeah, I think it seems to me Microsoft doesn't want you to be choosy, other than choose yes. And they're hearing from all of these different people, all these voices saying, yes, you need a Yammer tab. Yes, you need to rename follow. Yes, you need, and there's just all these voices telling
Mm.
them to do these things. And maybe it's good. I'm not judging that at all. I'm just saying for me, it's gotten busy. And especially, and I know this is a special use case, and I always say this because when people bring this up, it's like, yes, but most people aren't like that. For me, having to switch tenants as well, it's exponentially busy,
Mm.
and it just I hope that there is some thought into how do we make it to where we don't have to. I envision a channel where there's like 20 tabs at the top where, you've got your SharePoint site, you got your Yammer, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? You got all of these tabs, and now I'm going to have to check each one of these tabs, every 20 minutes to make sure I'm up to date on, I don't know. It's a bit busy. And get off my
Yeah.
lawn.
Get off my lawn. Well, like I just want to talk a little about the positive side to this move too.
Mhm.
For organisations that are using Yammer, they might have groups that are set up specifically to get product feedback internally, to source ideas, to remain in touch with your employees for employee engagement. A few other use cases like that, and with Yammer being your organisation's place for org-wide conversation, it makes sense to be able to bring in a tab from Yammer so that you as a team can keep a close watch and decide how we're going to respond to that as one of those common use cases. If someone's asking a question of the CEO in the employee engagement Yammer group as a result of a live stream that they did last week, maybe the executive team wants to be on top of that. And so they'll go into that Yammer tab, they'll share it into the channel, they have a little chat about it. Yeah, that's one
How do they
example.
know someone has a comment 3 days later?
By checking that Yammer tab.
But are they going to know immediately? No. So they're
No.
just going to check the tab every hour. Won't they get bored because they're checking the tab every hour and there's nothing there? So they'll
Yeah,
quit checking it.
why not use the Yammer the connection thing, hey,
So why have the
rather than the
tab
tab?
in the first place?
Hmm. Well, there's a
So
couple. You bring up a good thing though, like that tab doesn't refresh itself automatically.
that's right. So I'm not trying to poo-poo this. There are, you know, um, the resource center that I spoke at Ignite on for the flow topic that Sarah and I put together. It talks about this kind of engagement of we need to have using Yammer, right, as part of it. SharePoint is the place where we're having the files and instructions and downloads, but Yammer is the place we have the conversation. Well, that would be great to have, and as part of, if you're having this resource center team and people are managing it and having that tab, I think that's great, just like you just described. But the problem is I have to actively go to that tab, open it up so it refreshes, so it shows me this. That's the part that I don't like, is how do we keep up to date where we have so many services with these streams of information, and then we have these other services that we have to actively work in to get that
Mm.
information. So anyway, we are laboring on.
Yeah,
Sorry,
and
I'll get off
plenty
my
more that we can
soapbox. I'm
say
sorry.
about that.
Yeah.
All right. We have actually this is some good news for those who like to work with Flow and want to inject a little automation or a little more automation
Hmm.
into their teams. Um, there's a new capability within Flow to actually post a message, and I think it says direct it to someone
Yeah.
as a result of certain triggers in your Flow.
That's right. And so for all of us who are in workflow all the time and we want to automate our life, Flow is a great tool for that. And being able to connect into Teams to do that is great. I think I see it as a entry level, as not entry level, but kind of the first thing that we can do a really good job of in
Yeah.
Teams and so I could see how this could lead to more, and I'm excited about it.
Yep. And dare I say it, one of those conditions could be checking to see if there's anything said for the CEO, and
Yeah.
dropping. I'll leave it out there as one
Actually,
of those
now that you
things.
mention it, Sarah, and the second time I mentioned her, but Sarah did a a thing I saw on regarding 365 about watching Yammer for like
Sentiment
phrases
analysis.
or well, it's sentiment analysis, but also watching for words for and phrases and stuff. So
Oh, yeah,
actually,
and it emails
so you
off to a certain group.
right, so you could set up a flow that watches for that in Yammer and then posts to team in it.
Yep.
So there's you could do stuff like that.
Yeah. It's all
Anyway,
coming together.
that's right.
Yep. And a couple more to go. Ooh. Or was this the last one?
Uh-uh.
Oh no, we've got a few more.
We
Let's
do.
rifle through these.
Let's do it.
Mac.
Well, and these are yeah, Mac.
Yeah, Mac.
God
No,
bless
but
him.
this is okay. I mean, I know that Skype is on its way out, but what's happening here is it's making it easier for your guest users to join a an online meeting hosted in Skype if they're using
Mhm.
Mac. They don't have to download a separate meetings client,
Yep.
which Windows users still do if they just a guest, right?
Hmm.
But this is good. Makes it easier for Mac users to join in a fuller client. We have return to classic SharePoint toggle.
Yes. We talked about this before, and that there was a toggle you could do to, you can click go to classic, and so that when you're working a list, so you can get to the classic view of it. Before, if you did that, then it did it for every list and library on that
Mm,
site.
mm.
Now it's just for that list or library until you close the browser and go back into it.
Oh, is that the catch?
Hmm.
You go and visit it again, and you've got to set it back again.
Yep.
Yeah. All right. Oh well. Um, but in a kind of a related fashion, modern
Hmm.
list site collection opt out. This is
Yep.
a choice that you had to use PowerShell to make if you wanted to set your site collection to not have modern lists and libraries. Now you can set it with a visible switch or choice in the
Yep.
site collection settings.
That's right.
Um,
It's along with the
yeah.
features of the site collection.
Yep.
It's going to be yet another feature that you can turn on, and I think that's great. And we've seen this countless times where they enable functionality with PowerShell and then they bring the UI along. Same thing. The PowerShell is still there for those of you that have already set up scripts or whatever to enable this, but now we're able to do it in the UI itself. So it's
Hmm.
good.
Mm-hmm. I think this is probably. I know this is something that people have been looking for, and modern
Mm,
experience anyway. Connected web parts in the
yeah.
SharePoint Online modern experience. We had it for a
Yep.
while in Classic,
Hmm.
and if this is something that's been holding you back from moving some of your sites to modern, this is good news.
I agree with you, and I think this is just again this is the first step, and it's a good step. I want to bring up though the last three items we talked about in regards to SharePoint are all items that are either rolling out already or will roll out within the next week.
Right.
So we're coming back to this SharePoint guys, and hey, love you, man, love you, ladies, but you need to get them on this to give us a little bit more notice than this. There's some UI stuff in here, and we're not getting notification like we're supposed to. We've been told we're supposed to at least get 30 days before stuff rolls out, and several of these will be at the end of March. Will be done, not just targeted release, but production release.
Mm-hmm.
So regular release, so standard. So I know it's a little bit of soapbox, but I'm getting a little bit. I mean, we've seen this over the last month or two, where all the SharePoint notices are, "You're going to see this tomorrow." I'm like, wait, what? How are we
Yeah.
supposed to prepare for change? Um,
Yeah.
so I'm not too big of a fan of this.
Look, yeah, I mean, if like it's the last three, some of these things are look. There's going to be a switch there if you want to use it,
Hmm.
so maybe that's not as crucial. But when it is something that changes the user experience and gives them new functionality, and it's just going to appear by the end of the month, you definitely need to be able to have more time to let people know it's coming,
Hmm.
especially if you yourself don't know what it looks like.
Right.
Yeah. Now,
Well, and the time frame between targeted and standard is when you do that is very very short. And there's a best practice for doing this of keeping up with change and how you should be working through this. And I have a session on that coming at the SharePoint conference. But it's how do we keep up with change? That's great, but it is, if you make that shorter and shorter and shorter, keeping up with change is going to be so much more difficult. So
yeah, it's that balance of the rush to deliver value in the product versus, hey, as an org, let us keep up with this change.
right.
We are at the end of the messages for the week, but there was a couple of things. You had a delivery which sounded interesting.
I did. It is a delivery box. It's kind of brown. You don't get a lot of so
unbox. You gotta.
okay.
Come
Okay,
on.
while you talk about something else,
The other
said
thing,
had one
you
more
get
thing.
yourself some scissors and be safe. All right, here we go.
Scissors.
Oh my goodness. All right. The other thing that I noticed appear this morning, if you're into using Planner for coordinating your activities as a team or as a group, you can now copy that plan. And this means that you could take a standardized plan which has repetitive phases of work, repetitive tasks, copy that whole plan to a new plan, and then associate it, I guess, with a team. That's what I hear is that kind of repetitive work. So check that out in the tech community blogs for Planner. Daniel's still getting ready to unbox. So there's a couple. Oh, well, there's something else that I wanted to highlight there too. Next week. Oh, have you got it ready?
Yes.
You got it ready next week?
Go ahead and highlight.
Yeah, I was just going to say that,
I'll take the
that
paper
next week Dan and I are going to be at MVP Summit in Redmond with some of the other team at Regarding 365. We will be recording and doing a few things together, and we will still have an episode of the 365 Message Center. So do join us at the time that you'll see appear in the YouTube thing if you're subscribing, but it'll be roughly this time for now. Anyway, the unboxing.
So this is called Mobile Pixels. It is a mobile second monitor for your laptop. It was a Kickstarter, and I backed it, and it's been a long time waiting for this.
Yeah.
So I also got the nice kickstand because the premise is that you attach it to the back of your laptop.
Okay.
I'm not a big fan of that, so I got a kickstand so I don't have to attach it to the laptop.
Very nice.
So it's there we go. Whew. Ooh. So here it is. Nice monitor. Hopefully. Hopefully I don't
do
break
what that
it
Aussie
live.
did with the iPhone launch, and he dropped it on the ground straight away.
Right. That's what it's like. I break it, and then now they have proof that I broke it. So some magnets to put on the back of the laptop, but again, I'm not going to do it that way.
Okay.
Some thank you. But and then it pulls out. I'm not reading the instructions.
This is a cover for it to keep in your bag when you need it. Ooh.
Wow.
All right.
Yeah, and it connects by USB, gets its power by USB, and it's pretty lightweight. It is.
Oh, does it stay in that cover? Does it stay connected? Is the idea that it attaches on the back?
Yes. So magnets, I call them magnets, could just be funny, would go on your laptop, on the back of your laptop, and then it would do that. So you would have that attached, and then your laptop's here. And so when you pull out your second screen, you would just do that. And so your laptop screen would be here, and then you have your second screen there.
Okay.
Again, I'm not going to use it that way, but that's kind of the premise.
Yeah, no. Well, we do all want to see pictures of this when it's set up and running, so we can see how productive you are on the move.
I plan on taking it with me next week. So,
you,
sir, will see it in person.
I will. And do you prefer to have it on the left or the right with a second screen?
That's a very good question. The way I have things set up now, I have it on the right.
Okay, so I'll sit on the left and I'll let someone else get their screen sort of. All right. Well, look, thank you for that unboxing, Daniel. We should make a habit of that if we do manage to find some other bits and pieces. We are out of time, out of time, but thanks everyone for joining us. And we see some kind of newish faces too that we don't often see. We've got Tonya who's come in, Christine Green's become a regular too. There's Hilda. So yeah, thank you everyone for joining. It's been good. Do check out their side comments if you have been watching this live. Rather, if you're watching this later on, you'll see them popping up, of course, and adding plenty of value to what we talk about. But that was the 365 Message Center episode 85. Catch us next week for 86. Bye for now.